Greetings!
Sure.
Welcome to another episode of Roll Call, brought to you by TTSH Nursing Organisation Development. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tiff, your co-host for this episode.
So for this episode, we are going to be sharing things we wished we knew before joining healthcare. For some context, Tiff and I are senior staff nurses now. We've been working for about 4 years and we graduated in 2020 during the peak of COVID.
And so before this, actually, Kim was pursuing diploma in communication, whereas I was pursuing a diploma in biomedical science, and we both entered nursing in university.
So before that, we had no idea what was going on.
And so this is a good time for us to just reflect because we have just passed our new nurses portion of our career, and now we're entering the next juncture of our career. So just thought some of the things that we thought new nurses and people considering to join healthcare may want to consider. So I'll go first. So one big takeaway for me would be to be intentional with your career. So I think a lot of us know this saying on the internet where, in a relationship, love alone is not enough. So to carry that sentiment over to this topic, I feel that for healthcare, passion alone is not enough. When I first entered healthcare, a lot of people sell it to me in a way that, oh, you're so nice, you should be a nurse. Or like, oh, you look like you could be a good nurse. Or nursing is stable income, iron rice bowl. Or, the slogan, not all hero wear capes, some wear scrubs. And so it's like, it's a very feel good when you think about healthcare. It's like, wow, I'm doing so much with my life. And so I came into healthcare with this very rose-tinted glass. But I think no one really prepared me for what it takes to stay in healthcare and actually develop myself in this profession. So one of the things that I wished I had known is this profession is very demanding. Emotionally, in terms that you need to be highly empathetic all the time. Empathetic towards your patients. You meet a lot of people across different course of life. You need to be understanding towards them. You need to be caring towards your colleagues. There's a way that we should carry ourselves as well as a nurse. And it's also demanding physically, especially shift work.
Most definitely.
Like, honestly, I feel that not everyone is born to do shift work. Like, I personally don't gel well with night shift. And also I don't do very well with high stress environments. Like when I do a lot of like frequent night shift, I get very sad. Like, I will just be like on my third night shift, like at 12 minutes, I'll be like, I miss the sun. Like, no joke. It's like I feel like a plant. It's like I need to photosynthesize. And when I go through a resuscitation, right, very high adrenaline, I'll be like doing. But once everything is gone and done, then I'll go home and I'm just like, oh, the crash. Everything is aching. My hair will fall out. And it takes a few days for my body to recover. So that's why I feel that it's not for everyone. But I've had colleagues who thrive in permanent night shift.
Permanent night, or like they're in very high intensity settings all the time. But they really love it.
And they don't physically react to it. So I think it's good to know yourself well. And the last point is that even though there's all this high demand, it's tough, it's not all rose-tinted, but there's a very high level of reward. Like, I think across my career, never have I questioned the impact that I have on the society. Like, I always find it very fulfilling. I find joy in providing nursing care. And I think I always come back knowing that I have done something good. I think that's not the same sentiment for a lot of jobs out there, and I feel that's why nursing has a very strong pull for me, because this is what I feel is fulfilling in my life.
Definitely. I agree and resonate with a lot of Tiff's sentiments. And moving on to my my thing that I wish I knew, I tried to consolidate it into one main point, because if not, I'm just going to keep yapping. So my one main takeaway is to trust the process and that things take time. I think we mentioned earlier, right, that Tiff and I are now in our 4th year of nursing. And I think that's when we only about like roughly this period, I can safely say that we have more or less found our footing, at least a little bit better than the past few years. When I was a young nurse, Tiff mentioned earlier as well that my previous education background was in comms. So I already knew that I had this skill set. And, you know, like obviously when you're a new nurse, your key important priority is your clinical knowledge, background, foundation. That is your bread and butter of being a nurse, right? But of course, at that point in time, I think because I was struggling to cope a lot in clinical, I was pushing very hard and giving a lot of resistance and being like, where I want to faster do com stuff. I want to faster do all these projects and everything. Why aren't you all letting me do all these things? So I was at a point where I was very frustrated. Very, very frustrated. I felt very trapped. Like, why isn't anyone listening to me? You know, and everyone kept echoing the same sentiment, which was focus on your clinical first. Be strong in your foundation in clinical first. That got me so irritated. But now looking back, I do see the importance of it. Because, you know, like, okay, so for me now, I'm hybrid comms and clinical. Tiff is hybrid informatics and clinical. Ultimately, all the projects and all the stuff that we do now is to benefit and is for the advocation. Is that a word? It's to advocate for our ground nurses. Our nurses, especially those that are on the ground. And I think one thing when I reflect and look back, right, is that if that experience or that footing in clinical is not strong, how am I supposed to then be aware of what's going on and what's important to the ground nurses that I am supposedly advocating for? Yeah, so I think that's why for me, retrospectively looking back, now I'm like, okay, I understand where they were all coming from. And I was trying to rush into things a bit too quickly. Yeah, in my opinion.
But it's definitely not an easy lesson to learn because I feel that it's frustrating. Like, you know, you have all this potential, like, you know that you can do so much more, but yet you felt as though you were denied the opportunity almost. Yeah, so it's a perspective that you don't gain easily and is most of the time gained on hindsight. But at the same time, I don't think that you should stay somewhere that you don't feel is benefiting you. So even though we do say that give yourself some time, you know, to really get to know your clinical area better, get a stronger foundation. But if early on in your career where you've determined that this is not for you, you don't see yourself doing this long term, definitely you should stand your ground and explore other aspects of nursing as well.
Yeah. So there are many different tracks in nursing, and I don't think that you have to figure it out so fast. Take your time to slowly explore, because nursing is always like evolving. There's always new job scopes, new things to explore within the nursing realm. So yeah, just be patient with yourself. Give yourself the time. Don't rush into things. You have a long career in nursing ahead of you. So really just take the time to trust the process and just appreciate the process. But of course, it will be difficult at certain point in time, especially when you have a really bad day in clinical and you just kind of want to yeet out of there. Trust me, I understand how you feel. We both understand how you feel. But yeah, just really take the time to enjoy the day to day. I think that's something, and be in the present and just ground yourself and be like, okay, what can I do to make the most out of my time now? Yeah, and I think we have a little bit more advice in this particular area that we will add on later on.
And for those who are considering to enter healthcare, actually before I enter healthcare, I did a job shadowing opportunity with nurses. So I think these are good area where even before you choose to enter healthcare, you should definitely get more exposure to get a sensing of what is it like on a day-to-day job, to get to know better whether you can see yourself in this line in the long run. So all these job shadowing opportunities, I think, are easily available on the websites of hospitals as well as the MOHH websites.
Okay, so that's for Tiff and me. We are going to move on to our submissions. So the first one is a little bit intense, okay, but let's process this. So the first one is that there are still quite a number of people who look down on nurses.
Very sensitive
topic.
Yes.
But I think we need to acknowledge that it does still happen. I wouldn't say that it is a majority of people. I think that the numbers are getting less. I don't encounter it as much. But definitely in your career, you will meet those a certain group of people, a certain number of patients or loved ones who are rude or, in the way that they speak to the nurses. You can tell that they don't respect you as much as other healthcare professions. But I think as we continue to, like what I said earlier, grow and evolve our nursing profession, that hopefully through projects like this podcast, and many other different initiatives that, people get to know what we do as nurses better.
And what we are capable of.
Yeah.
And also on top of this, right, I think there's also changing landscape in terms of healthcare. Like sometimes when I show my patients that I actually came here to study and have a degree in nursing, it puzzles them. They're like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't think that nursing will have a degree.
Yeah. A lot of them actually ask me, did you study medicine? Then you chose to become a nurse. Then I'm like, no, actually that's a degree.
Yeah.
In a sense, there are a lot of, like, I think especially those of the older generation, they don't believe or they didn't know.
Yeah. So I think it's just constant work on the healthcare landscape, as well as breaking down different stereotypes about the professions. And at the same time, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And please remember that harassment is never okay. That it's okay to stand your ground, to correct different stereotype if you are ever presented with it. And and take faith that as long as you're doing a good job, being a good nurse and portraying a good professional, then people will treat you accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the next point. That the skills I learned will be used to take care of my parents in the future.
Love you, mommy. Shout out to your mom.
Yes, I agree with this wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like everyone should have a basic level of health literacy for daily life, take care of yourself, caring for your family.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, when I joined nursing, it was at a point in time where, before I decided to study nursing, I was doing my diploma in comms. So that was also the period of time where my grandparents were in and out of the hospital a lot. And I had absolutely no idea what was going on. And one of the key factors that pulled me into going into nursing was that I would be able to know what's going on. Because I think, our health and all these kind of things, especially when we get older, it's something that we can't really run away from. It's a universal experience, right? So I was like, okay, at least if I joined this profession, I will be really aware of and prepared in the sense of what is to come. Yeah, to myself, to my for my parents, my loved ones. At least I'll know what's going on. And now at this point in time, like, so many people, I think we're at the age where, parents are getting older, grandparents are getting older. Not only are we able to, help them take care if needed, but we can also give advice, help them to understand what's going on. Like, maybe they will tell us, my parents are in the hospital now, this is how, what's going on. We can help them to kind of understand the situation better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think nursing as a career choice is not just central to you as a person. You can see that your career choice also has a ripple effect on the people around you and the community. So it's one thing to consider if you ever want to join healthcare. So the next submission that we have is on career prospects beyond clinical. So I think when I first entered nursing as a nursing student, I think I was only presented with 3 major tracks of nursing. So one would be your nurse clinician, your NCs, as well as your advanced practice nurse, your APN. Then the next is your nursing manager, nursing officers, where they do the rostering, the operational of the ward. And lastly is your nurse educator. So your clinical instructor, teaching, lecturers. But I think what this person was asking for is what else can you expect in nursing besides just clinical nursing and these 3 main tracks that everyone kind of know about.
Yeah. So there's, I think we mentioned so many times that, we are constantly evolving, right? So example, for me, I'm currently now in a communications track. It's still very new. We're still in the very new, it's a new era, comms era. So we're still kind of figuring out what's going on as we move along. For Tiff, currently, she's in the informatics track. Yeah, which is super duper cool. Do you want to share more about what you do?
Yes. Okay. So I'm shadowing nurse informaticians where I support the NEHR, which is our EPIC system. Then also we do report building. So basically, actually, what we're trying to say is there are niche nursing skills that are available. It's just that maybe it's not as well advertised on or well known of because a lot of it is shaped around the people and the skill sets.
Yeah.
Like for example, this role that Kim holds right now didn't used to exist.
Yeah, have you ever heard of a social media nurse? Yeah. For organization, professionally, I don't. So.
Yeah, so not that we know, but then because she comes in presented with this niche of skills, so then the portfolio was built around her. So definitely don't feel discouraged if you feel like you are not practicing something that you're passionate for, or perhaps clinical nursing is not your entire thing that you want to pursue for your entire life. Yeah, so if you have a niche set of skill, come in, present it. Perhaps maybe they can build portfolios around you.
Yeah, but of course, this is not to say that it's going to happen for every single person, of course, thank you, TTSH. We love a supportive organization and we do acknowledge that, it's very rare. And I think a lot of our peers also say that, how come you have these kind of very interesting roles? We've never really heard of anything like that before. But I think especially for Tiff and I, for me, because of my formal education, that's why I already came into the organization with this particular skill set. For Tiff, I think she took it upon herself while she was working in clinical, by the way, to go and pursue like further studies, in the sense where like she moved for courses on her off days before her night shifts to grow her portfolio in informatics. Yeah, which is crazy. That's
Yeah. Yep. So actually, I think the point is that there is a two-way communication between the organization and yourself. So if you wish for organization development opportunities, there is also avenues where you should develop yourself personally as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So there should be a middle point where you meet the organization with like a skill set where like, I want to do something, I'm interested in something, and I have this, and the company and the organization can support you by saying, I have this opportunity that is matching your skill set. Perhaps you can do this as well.
Yep. I think outside of work in this organization, Tiff and I also, to grow our portfolios and to just explore what we like, because I think at the start, I remember when Tiff and I were nursing students, I really wanted to be an NM because I wanted to be a sister. I love working with people. So that was what I was set on. I was like, okay, I'm going to be an NM. Tiff, we all imagined that she was going to be a nurse clinician because Tiff's thing is clinicals, But look at where we are now. One comms nurse and one informatics nurse. So other than comms and informatics, Tiff, we want to just share a bit more about any other roles or tracks that you've heard of.
Okay, so this list is not exclusive, okay? This is just a list that I've come across when I talk to people and all that. But beside clinical nursing, there's also other tracks of nursing that you may be interested in, such as like innovators. There's even innovators, and there is informatics, communication, there's nurse researchers, there's manpower sisters, as well as there are specialized teams, like let's say the medication safety team, the fall prevention teams, and different aspects of quality nursing that we can actually niche on.
Yeah, so I think especially if you're new, just of course find your footing in clinical first. Then start off small, maybe like ward projects. Ask your sister or your brother, like, is there anything in the ward? Just to pace yourself so you don't take on anything too quickly, right? Pace yourself, do some small ward projects here and there. Then just try to then slowly grow there. Maybe join like a GC. GC is a governance council. So we have that in TTSH and it's run by our nurses. So or join a GC, join like a club or like a community CCA thing, like there's journal club and all that kind of stuff. And then from there find out where your interest lies.
Yep. And I think we keep saying that to get a good clinical footing is because eventually all of these branches of nursing is very rooted in nursing. And the people ultimately that we serve is the nurses on the ground. So you still need to have a very strong factor to the workflow as well as the nursing community to find a purpose, no matter wherever is your niche area.
Yeah.
So the next point we have is that burnt out is real. It happens more often than you think. Because you care for others, often at the expense of yourself. Anxiety really goes crazy, and it's absolutely tiring no matter how many years it has been.
Can you vouch for that?
Absolutely, 100% true, real. Yes. Okay, so there's no denying it. Yeah, there's no denying that this is the demanding professions, and that all of this burning out, anxiety, all of these are struggles that we face on the dailies. But as we mentioned before, and many times, that is good to get to know yourself, find your coping mechanism, find yourself outside of work.
Your identity outside of work. And I think if you really want to find out more about this topic, I think that our mental health episode, which is episode 2 of Roll Call, we really deep dive into like exploring different kinds of struggles that nurses face, especially at the start during your transition, and how to cope better. And also we give a lot of advice there. So head over to that episode so that we don't yap so much on this episode.
And sorry, just for one more point, there's this phrasing that the nurse say that no matter how many years it has been. So I think there's a belief that the more you do this, the more used to it you get, and the less tiring it is. But I think that it's a misconception that we need to take away because it's a demanding profession, and then no matter how many years you do it, right, we go through different life phases in nursing. Like, for example, we set different priorities in life. Like a nurse who is having a new family, on top of your working stress, you also have your outside personal stress. And therefore, how much energy you can pour into work or how much work can take away from you is different from, let's say, a newly graduate nurse without family. It feels very different. So don't be too harsh on yourself.
Figure out what your priorities are. For Tiff and I, even, like, we are best friends, right? Our priorities in life are like super duper different. So for me, my number one priority is my work-life balance, spending time with my loved ones and family. That's something that I really treasure. So to me, of course, I'll get my work done. Boss, if you're watching, I'll get my work done. But like for me, I will always prioritize that and try to schedule and balance everything so that is still number one. For Tiff loves to work.
Can't deny, I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
But I do derive a lot of joy out of work. Like I like being mentally stimulated at work. So the harder the task, the more motivated I feel and the more fulfilling I get out of it. So I think it's just different priorities and different ways that different personality approach work as well. Okay, so the next point that we have is that politics is a real thing, cutthroat despite being in a supposedly caring profession. That is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's unpack that.
Okay, so honestly,
we acknowledge that it's a very real thing. I think like what this person mentioned, and I think also tying in with what Tiff mentioned earlier, that a lot of people have this perspective that nurses, one stereotype, or you are nice, you have a soft heart. Not saying that there are mean people in nursing, but everyone has this impression that like nurses are all this one specific kind. But I think we need to acknowledge that as with any industry, you have a whole bunch of different personalities, people from different backgrounds coming in. And we always say that, like especially in the hospitals, nursing or nurses are one of the biggest number of like workforce in the organization. So I feel like it's something that is to be expected, that there will be people that don't necessarily fit that perfect mold of what like nurse should be.
Yep. And so I think with that also, it's good to adjust your expectations. I think as of any organizations, workplace management, workplace relationships are of importance, and it's not perfect if you don't work on it.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in a workplace and you're completely new, you're dropping into already a place where they have already structured out a culture.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you definitely will feel like out of place. You may have some disagreement with the way they run things, and this is where workplace politics can arise.
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable, but it's definitely workable around. Like you can definitely navigate it. To tie this back to the episode, right? So to prepare yourself for the workplace, I think one of the gap is that we never were taught how to deal with workplace politics, or how to deal with communicating with a superior, or how to deal around with management.
Yeah, a lot of it centers around like patient care or at most like allied health, between different allied health professionals. Like how do you communicate in a emergency to doctors, but all these kind of like soft skills as per any, I feel like when you go to school also, like they don't have to teach you how to make friends, how to be friends with your classmates. That is something that you kind of have to like figure out for yourself. All the more so I feel in a workplace, especially when you're entering an environment where there's a larger age range of people that you're working with, all the more so like especially in nursing, we have this multicultural workforce. Yeah, so it's something that's to be expected.
Correct. And so just a heads up, right? Nursing workforce is very dynamic. So we, as what she mentioned, we have different people of different age group, different races, different culture, different nationality. And on top of that, we're also dealing with different healthcare professionals of different knowledge. Yeah, so some of my colleagues, right, they may not come from nursing background. And we do have people from mid-career switch as well. So actually this is a very good space for you to hone this soft skill, and don't take all these politics personally, definitely, and try to use it as a platform to hone yourself. Because eventually, let's say, anywhere you go, dealing with people is inevitable in the organizations, and it's something valuable for you to learn and hone as you stay in the nursing workforce. Yep. And so on that, actually, I'm very curious, right? Because I've never had any other working experience outside of nursing. For those who did mid-career switch, can you share with us, is there any major difference from your previous organization and compared to a healthcare setting?
Yeah, it's okay, Tiff. You don't need to talk about that now, because later on this year, we're going to have an episode on mid-career switchers. Yeah, and I'm interviewing 2 brothers. So stay tuned for that episode and we'll speak more about their transition. And that concludes this episode of Roll Call and the things we wished we knew before we joined healthcare. If you want to listen to this on Spotify, search up Roll Call or Nurses of TTSH.
Do give our channel a follow and hit the bell button to get notified when we drop a new episode.
And if you want to join our team or give me any suggestions, do follow us on TikTok or Instagram at Nurses of TTSH or leave a comment as well. And we'll love to have you on board.
And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch you in the next roll call. Bye.